Hey guys, so I want to share a little story that happened today, and with it a little packet of wisdom I think is really useful, especially for people who can get really kind of negatively slanted towards the pointlessness of life as they see it, or the fact that it's all going to end anyways. So I was in a car ride with my mom, and she was making some joke about like feeling stupid, and I was like, well, maybe there's some truth to it. And we're laughing. And she's like, yeah, my daddy said I would never amount to anything. And I was like, well, I mean, was he wrong? And we kind of laughed again. And I was like, yeah. In my own head, I was like, I think I shared it too. I was like, yeah, I mean, none of us really amount to anything. And we started talking about that. And there's something really freeing just to realize we all kind of come from the same place. We know we don't really amount to anything, but it doesn't mean it's a negative thing. So like what do I mean by we come from the same place is like no matter what we all have a similar kind of coming from the same place. You could say, oh, we come from a mother and a father, or we come from the ground. The ground created, or I should say, the earth slash ground created people, and people created you and me, and then we grow up, and then we die, and we go back into the ground, and the cycle kind of continues. It's just like the symbiotic life creates death, death creates life, and then that's just what goes on, whether or not you are present in it or not. And for some people, that can really be scary and create this whole pointlessness to it all, and like, well, why am I trying to live and do this or that? But like, don't worry about that. Just enjoy the process. Go forward. Do what you need to do. Learn stuff. But like, no, like you really can't make a mistake. And in between all this, like, why get caught up in the negative? Because there's so many things that, like, when you realize you come into this place the same as everybody and you leave the same as everybody, it's like it may make you want to question into like, oh yeah, why am I worried about showing the people around me that I'm capable, or that I can support myself, or like maybe you're motivated to become something, to like say to the other people, hey, look, I succeeded, or maybe you feel motivated to like show you have more than somebody, or like, hey, maybe you feel worthless now because there's other people that have stuff that you don't. Like, it could be anything. It could be like, oh, they have more money than me, they're more beautiful than me, her butt is better looking, his dick is bigger, my dick is smaller. Like, there's all these infinite amount of things that we like compare ourselves in between this process of like coming into it and leaving, that if you're really honest, you're like how much is it really benefiting your day to day? And like, maybe you should try and letting go some of that. You may find like in the letting go can be challenging at times, but then as you do, you're like, oh, what a relief. I'm no longer trying to like compete to show other people that I'm like a better worker, or that I have worth and a success. Because I mean, these kinds of ideas are in our society at this moment. Like, there's just this kind of like semi-competitiveness to be somebody and to show other people that you're somebody. And maybe this is more pronounced in certain cultures. I know there's other cultures that value more collectiveness and the whole of their society, as opposed to like standing out in the society, like being at the top of the food chain, so to say, like the wealth food chain or the beauty food chain. And I don't want to diminish that, like that is something you shouldn't do or is bad. But just to propose maybe like a question, like, now that you see that about yourself, or maybe you discover that's going on, or that happens with you and it happens in the world, and that maybe it's worth like letting go of some of that, because how much is it serving you or anybody else? And I also don't want to like get you into this mindset that's what's going on in the world 100%, because that's not what's going on in the world 100%. There's much more to the world than just that layer of experience. Because if you get caught in like, oh, this whole world is just this competitive mess and everyone's in a disaster, and it's just pointless, and it's so frustrating. And oh, what a gross thing! And life must be a horrible designer. And God, oh man, what was he thinking? Like, that's also another way to like suffer. Yeah, I guess the best way to put it. To get all worked up about an idea you have of the world. Sure, that goes on in some degree, but also it's also true that I think fundamentally, for the most part, people care about something on some level, whether it's for some other people, maybe within their small circle, care about themselves, maybe they're animals. I think there's also a decency that wants to come out in people, but it's just not as really supported to do so in certain circumstances and cultures and work dynamics. And yeah, I mean, it can all improve, so to say, or improve in the sense that if people were to let go of certain degrees of competitiveness and you could say anger and frustration, that as a whole, if everyone was doing that to a certain degree, and it was making its way into like social dynamics, and like it was supported and looked highly upon, that it would just feel better to be in this body, in this life circumstance, if it was more manifest. Because again, I don't want to like poo-poo and say that what's going on is wrong and is bad. It's just what it is right now, and there's more to it than it all being competitive, and it's all being a disaster through world environmental issues, and world and economic issues, and world and social fighting issues. There's more to. There's infinitely more to this than just that. Yeah, I hope you kind of get what I'm pointing to. And you may be wondering, well, how do I do it? I don't know. I see it, but I don't know how to do it. Well, again, like any kind of interest, the more you kind of like put some attention on it, put some time and effort into like maybe working with yourself, or like realizing, oh yeah, being really competitive. Let me just kind of like let that go. Or maybe look into, oh, why am I so competitive? Oh, maybe because I was told that I was like my mom, right? She was never going to make it in the world, and she was never going to amount to anything. And you felt some sort of like, oh, well, I'll show him, or oh yeah, I'm more than that. I'm going to do this. And sure, that was a certain degree of fuel. But then at a certain point, you may want to go like, hey, you're capable, and you don't need to come from this place of angst and hurt and trying to prove that you are something significant. And again, this can be challenging. You may have to remind yourself, oh yeah, this is not an easy process. This may take time. This may be painful at times, because we can get in kind of like internal battles with ourselves. We can get frustrated with the world for being the way it is as we see it. But again, just stick with it. Let it sink in. Let the simplicity of the question, is this really benefiting me, kind of sink in. And naturally, as you ask it, it can change kind of on its own in a certain sense. As long as you're doing this with openness and gentleness, and not shaming or blaming anything in particular, not society, not your parents, not yourself, not the world, just doing it openly. You can make some really positive gains that aren't super like fighting. All right. If that makes sense, great. If you have some questions, feel free to leave them. Comment, like, subscribe, and I hope that's useful for you. All right, take care. Bye-bye.